Today, we are doing a deep dive into the source material around one of the culinary world's great confessionals, Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential.
It's been over 2 decades, and the book is still this incredible cultural touchstone.
Right, it's this perfect mix of rock and roll myth-making and what one source called this really painful self-flagellation.
It's gossipy, it's profane, absolutely, but I think above all, it was one of the first brutally honest accounts of the people who, actually feed us.
And that honesty, that's really the core of our mission for you today, isn't it?
It is. We need to look past the whole chef as rock star thing that he eventually became and really get how this one book just fundamentally changed everything.
Now we see food, labor, the whole industry.
Exactly. I mean, when it came out in 2000, Bourdain's central idea, this hypothesis that you could understand political and social inequality by looking at what and how we eat, that was a largely alien concept to most people.
Yeah, before this, food talk was what? Restaurant reviews and home cooking shows?
That's it. Bourdain completely shifted the lens. The idea that a kitchen crew's, drug habits or the dishwasher's socioeconomic status were worthy of serious thought. That was not a mainstream idea. So this guide is about those revelations, those contradictions in Bourdain's own identity.
And charting that leap from the certainty of the kitchen to the burden of becoming this global cultural ambassador.
A very ambiguous burden at that.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's paint a picture of the man who wrote this book. We all know the TV star, but what was his actual life like in, say, 1999?
Well, the sources give us a really clear picture of a man who was, as one put it, rode hard and put up wet.
I love that phrase.
It's so evocative. He was 43 years old, a recovering addict. He was still dealing with a lot of debt, and his main gig was executive chef at Les Halles.
And we should be clear about Les Halles. This wasn't some, Michelin-starred temple of gastronomy. It was a well-respected but pretty middle-brow steak frites place, right?
A busy workaday restaurant.
Okay.
Reliable, traditional, and it required just immense amounts of labor to keep it running.
So that's the key context.
It is. For Bourdain, just achieving sustained success and something that even resembled stability at Les Halles. That was a huge, hard-won victory for him. He wasn't plotting to take over the world. He was just trying to hold it all together.
So stability was the goal, not stardom.
Yeah.
Which makes what happened next so incredible.
It does, but, we should remember the literary impulse was already there. He wasn't a total novice.
Right. His crime novel, Bone in the Throat.
Exactly. Random House had published that a few years earlier, so he knew how to build a story, but that was fiction.
And then came the spark. That 1999 New Yorker article, "Don't eat before reading this."
And that was the dynamite. That was the first time an average person really got a peek behind the curtain, and it was revolutionary. It just shone a torch on the ugly side of the industry, the tricks, the chaos.
So when the book Kitchen Confidential came out,
it was an immediate sensation. It was robust, flippant, witty, outrageous. It tapped into all this industry lore and, maybe most importantly, his own really candid personal history. The substance use, the mental health struggles, all of it.
Okay, let's unpack this. The sources say he was factory assembled for the biggest stage. He was handsome, 6'4", a natural storyteller. But that leap from workaday chef to literary star, it must have been both exhilarating and, I imagine, terrifying.
The leap was massive, and the persona he took on in the book was, I think, a very calculated response to that moment. He used it as an insurrectionist rebuttal against the whole food media complex that was growing at the time.
You mean the Food Network, the rise of the smiling, super approachable TV chef?
Exactly. You had Emeril Lagasse, Rachel Ray, and Bourdain saw that whole polished, often kind of false representation of cooking as an all-consuming bête noire.
A source of great dread.
A pathological need to define himself against it. He felt he was spreading this unacceptably false narrative about the gritty, tough industry he actually lived in. His book was just screaming, this is the real story.
And that contrast is so important, but our sources point to a really big contradiction in that early persona. He wasn't the wise ambassador we remember yet.
Not at all. And that's maybe the most critical point about the book itself. People often forget that Bourdain's early persona was, well, he was sort of an asshole.
Huh, okay.
No, really, it was shot through with what analysts called adolescent fogonzo narcissism. The book is like this contest of wills between the future, compassionate Bourdain and this shitty Vassar dropout rich kid overly proud of his drug habit.
And you can feel that tough guy panache. I'm thinking of that line about women who survive and prosper in such a high testosterone universe are all too rare. It's a really uncomfortable line to read now.
It's a critical detail because it shows the kind of damaged core that the industry and he himself was hiding with all that machismo. The analysis we looked at suggests his work fits right in with those other difficult men auteurs from that era.
Like David Chase from The Sopranos or David Simon from The Wire.
Exactly. These were all deeply driven men whose self-styled toughness sometimes got in the way of their more well-intentioned progressive views.
That comparison to David Simon feels so spot on. Simon is all about laying bare these complex Byzantine systems.
And Bourdain did the exact same thing for the restaurant. Simon showed you the Baltimore drug trade. Bourdain showed you the inner workings of a kitchen, this whole gallery of shady purveyors, inspectors looking the other way, the staff. He showed a world that civilians just thought was, prosaic.
And Simon saw that, right? He hired him for trim.
He did. He recognized that rare ability to synthesize complexity and make it compelling.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because when you look at the book's literary DNA, it's clearly following George Orwell's Down and Out in Paris and London.
It's totally following the beats. Orwell's book was this deep, social realist, Marxist critique of restaurant labor.
But Bourdain just flips the script.
It completely flips it. Orwell is lamenting the conditions, saying the workers are basically drones, slaves.
We are oppressed.
Right. And Bourdain takes that same world and turns it into a celebration. He's cheering, "We're pirates! We're the secret society running this ship, and those well-dressed squares in the dining room, they're the clueless ones."
It's an amazing psychological reframing, taking the stigma of that hard, hot, often drug-fueled life and turning it into this feeling of power.
An incredible seizure of power. And that's why the book resonated so far beyond just cooks. It speaks to that basic human need to belong, to find your tribe.
Bourdain put it perfectly. He said the best thing about cooking was to be part of a subculture, a secret society with its own language and customs.
And that concept is universal.
Yeah.
I mean, think about any passionate community. Take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for instance. To an outsider, the language sounds, specialized, maybe even violent. They're talking about chokes, guards, frames. But inside that group, that shared language creates this intense bond. It connects you with people who are just as weird as you are.
Makes you feel less alone.
Completely. But for all his talk about the pirate crew, Bourdain never lets you forget who the real backbone of that secret society was.
He was at his most articulate when talking about the role of immigrant labor in fine dining.
Absolutely. He just laid the irony bare. Marginalized populations working in brutal conditions, making these 3- and 4-star meals for the wealthiest people in the city.
And he didn't pull any punches. I'm thinking of that quote.
Oh, the one about the Mexican, Dominican, and Salvadorian cooks I've worked with over the years make most CIA-educated white boys look like clumsy, sniveling little punks.
And we should clarify, when he says CIA-educated, he doesn't mean the intelligence agency.
No, absolutely not. He means the Culinary Institute of America, the elite, expensive, formal path to becoming a chef.
So he's really indicting the class structure of the whole industry.
And he knew he was pointing the finger right back at himself, the Vassar dropout from a well-to-do New Jersey suburb.
That privilege is the subtext for everything, isn't it?
It's crucial. He carried this modified shame, this hatred for all things bourgeois. He even said he wanted to be a junkie since I was 12 years old, just because he bridled bitterly at the smothering chokehold of love and normalcy of his background.
So all that self-loathing just channeled itself into either reckless behavior or extraordinary art.
And the book was the art that let him escape. It was an ultimate rejection, way to burn the whole thing down.
And that art led him straight out of the kitchen. There's that one chapter hiding near the end of the book, Mission to Tokyo.
That chapter is the real turning point. It's the blueprint for everything that came later. He's in Japan for a Les Halls opening, and he just captures the whole experience, the jet lag, the awe, the drunk-on novelty mania so perfectly.
It really is the first episode of No Reservations or Parts Unknown.
Functionally, yes. That's the work that accounts for the lion's share of Bourdain's legacy. That's where he found his true voice. Not as the pirate chef, but as the visitor who used food as the ultimate icebreaker.
And that's why he had to leave the kitchen. His profile got too big. He started writing about his soft hands.
He felt like a traitor to the society. He later said he was a man who couldn't cut it as a cook anymore. That last chapter, Kitchens Closed, it's just this profound spiritual crisis. He's literally appealing for parole from the chef life.
It's wrenching. You feel him losing the one place he ever felt safe.
And it gets even sadder when you read the 2007 Aftermath addendum. He wrote it while he was already a big TV star, traveling in Bali and Seoul.
What does he say?
It's the most profound insight into the trade-off he made. He writes, I once felt safe and at home in the kitchen. I knew the rules. It was a life of absolutes, of certainties, and that comforted me in a way nothing since has.
Wow. So he traded the certainty of that secret society for the ambiguous burden of global fame.
He did. But, the philosophy he developed later kind of explains why he had to. He always said travel makes you realize how little you know.
That enlightenment is realizing there's no final resting place of the mind.
No moment of smug clarity. He exchanged that certainty for a life of constant, I think, often uncomfortable learning.
So what does this all mean? Bourdain becomes this unlikely global ambassador. He uses food to democratize culture, but he only gets there by first publishing this expose that tears down all the illusions, while at the same time celebrating the fierce community he found there.
At the end of the day, he taught us that a meal should be more than just a transaction. It should be an exchange of stories, of ideas, of community. And his own story shows the high price he paid for trading the certainty of that secret society with the uncertain burden of global influence.
The sources consistently suggest Bourdain's work is really about men who are deeply fucked up by the neuroses of modern masculinity. So, for you, the listener, consider this. Given his eventual repentance for that early asshole persona, which parts of the pirate identity did he have to shed, and which parts did he perhaps never fully manage to leave behind to become the insightful ambassador we remember? Thank you for diving deep with us.